kind of silly to watch the word extreme or extremism or extremists being thrown around by a now flailing mainstream media who has seen their ratings across all channels plummet by half and now are in a free fall where only the most extreme of positions are the things that are getting eyes and ears on. And it's even more now. You know, you watch that thick-jawed Bush suck-off, Nicole Wallace, calling for drone strikes on Trump supporters. Were you given 2 or 3 or 4 choices of people to vote for by your government, by the mainstream media, by the banking and pharmaceutical cartels? Were you given those very limited choices? Were you given the Coke versus Pepsi choice of Republicans versus Democrats? You were given a binary choice to vote based on your conscience. And now that they have achieved, somehow by hook or by crook, gaining all of the power in the executive branch, in the Senate, and in the House, now they're conveniently labeling anything they do not like, any form of dissent, any form of creativity, any form of questioning as extreme. And if you're then labeled as extreme, you are then, by their definition of your reality, as they label you an extremist for your ability to take a free choice of your vote, your free choice to ask for clarity, to ask for, heaven forbid, that they look at the voting rules as they were changed from state to state and go back through this process as they lay out the case in Time magazine. This is how we did it. This is how we changed the rules. This is who worked with who. This is how the powers coalesced to ensure that the outcome was guaranteed. Oh, and lo and behold, look what we get to do with the outcome of the election that we guaranteed through the machinations of control. We now get to label 72, 75, 80 million Americans as extremists and drop drone strikes on them. Because if you question the election, guilty. That Trump dude on the horse, was he inside of the Capitol? I don't know. I was smart enough to have nothing to do with it. But for those yokels who were out there doing whatever they were doing, this guy, this Cowboys for Trump guy, who you would see, waving the flag, come pet my horse, let's talk about, making America great again. That guy got a misdemeanor charge in D.C. He now will not be released on bail because the judge in his misdemeanor case said, well, if this guy doesn't believe the outcome of the election, then he believes that Joe Biden was fraudulently put into place. And if he believes that Joe Biden was fraudulently put into place, then the judge says that that same person will not then follow along with the judge. And because that is what the judge believes, then that guy, who has never, ever in the entirety of his life had any criminal actions against him, and now with a misdemeanor charge is not being released. A political prisoner from the same side that said that Donald Trump and all Republicans are Russian sycophants and fans of Vladimir Putin, who is also jailing his rivals, and now they're jailing their rivals. And sure, there's a lot of alarmism in this, and a lot of it is to drive ratings. You look at the HR 127 and the gun grabs and the psychological profiling and an $800 fee in order to have the insurance to whether or not you can own a firearm legally or not, and there's going to be lists of who owns what, where, and how many they have, and that list will be public. That sounds like a great way that if you wanted to guarantee that some undefended person's house was going to be robbed by a ne'er-do-well with an illegal firearm, they might want to go on that open source public registry and say, hey, whose house could I rob that would have no ability to defend themselves? That's one way to look at this. And is this just red meat to throw out there to get, the AM and the FM waves chattering and or is it just bread and circuses to get all eyes on, to drive more data so the AI gets smarter as it gets smarter? Maybe. I don't know. But I do think it's interesting that you have a person with a misdemeanor that cannot get bail because the judge says that that person will not listen to the judge, so then they can't be let free. That should be terrifying. The fact that they are asking that any Trump supporters or anybody who is, part of any kind of right-wing extremist group, if you're inside of the military, should be removed from the military or at least found out who they are. That should be a bit of concern, because who are going to be the forces that are going to be going up against 75 million people? It would be the military. And if you had a certain segment of the military that would be standing up against other members of the military and says, hey, didn't we swear an oath to the Constitution to defend it? And maybe these draconian measures that we're taking against people who just made a binary choice that was given to them through the political process, at some point, it's like they're turning voters into drug users. Oh, you chose to do the drug? Well, then that's why you're going to jail, and you were found to have done the drug. Yeah, I know. We were the ones that were marketing. We were the ones that telling you that these were the options that you had to do. You thought you had a free choice in what you believed was America, but lo and behold, this last entire 4 years, well, the Trump supporters and the conservatives were still pretending this was America. The people on the other side preparing for this grand culling, this grand removal or creation of manual slave labor inside of this oligarchy, were planning. It was a setup. This was a place to gather information, to gather regular rank and file conservatives and patriots and people who love the flag and were sworn to defend the Constitution. And now that we know who you are, you're fucked. We're coming to get you because we've changed the definition of extremist. We've changed the definition of a representative democracy. We've changed the definitions of reality based on the reality czar. I find that hysterical in its own right. We only know czars because the Russians had czars. The Russians, the bad guys who the mainstream media said were the bad guys the whole time. And now that they've completely pulled the hood off of now what is new America, now we need a czar. We need a czar now to tell you what reality is. And if you doubt that reality czar, if you question that reality czar, if you question the lockdowns, if you question the inability of the state to give any kind of assistance or get a vaccine out or use actual mathematics and science, if you doubt the election, if you doubt the mainstream media, if you doubt any of this, well then guess what, fuckface? Your First Amendment's gone, your Second Amendment's gone, your Fourth and your Fifth are gone, and if we want to kill you, we just will, because we're Bolsheviks, we're Maoists, and that is what is being installed. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Enjoy what freedom is left, because for all intents and purposes, we're fucked.